I think you guys will all have to give permission for that. Thank you very much. Awesome. No problem. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to be here with all of you. Get my chair set up. All right. So before I launch into what I want to explore with you guys today, I have a question. Have any of you in the past year, feel free to hit in the chat or just raise your hand, experienced conflict, contradiction, whether it's between what you're feeling in here and the information that's out there regarding immune health, or whether it's just the information itself? I know I have, right? Yeah, there's a lot. There's very overwhelming what we've been going through, and it goes to so many different levels. So when we get in these situations where we're experiencing conflicts and contradictions, it can cause us to spin out, but it also can become an opportunity to spin in and tap into what is this trying to show me in terms of where I align with whatever is coming into my experience, whether it's me trying to figure it out up here, or it's me trying to figure it out through something I'm experiencing in my body. So for myself, I actually began my academic career in molecular biology. So
I'm still waiting for help in that corner.
Anyone who hasn't muted themselves, please do. Thank you. So I started my career in molecular biology in college, and even then it was very interesting. My advisor was a virology professor, and he used to talk about, and it was like a joke, not so much a joke, that he loved to exercise his immune system by doing the 5-second rule, by eating food that had fallen on the floor. And that just kind of was like, oh, this is interesting. You know, it gave me a pause even at that stage in my career. I plowed forward and went to med school at IU, went to residency in family medicine, and almost exactly 14 years ago. So my son will be 14 on Thursday, and it was right around the time when he was just a wee little babe. It was like the hit the fan. And I had a constellation of different physical signs and symptoms that were, you know, allergies, migraine headaches, recurrent sinus infections, and at the same time, I was having this intense emotional experience in my life. And it was like, I didn't have a framework for understanding, but I had this awareness that was waking up that everything that's happening out there, everything that's happening in here is connected. So that conflict, that contradiction that I was experiencing is actually what propelled me on the journey to share, that led me to Chinese medicine. And that's what I'm going to be introducing you to today, is that framework that helped me to begin to map out and connect how all of this is connected, how it helps us to understand even contradictory information that's coming in from the outside, so that we can get to a place of alignment. So I want to encourage you, if there's any reflections you have, yes, and you guys all have a workbook that's going to follow along. So the slides are in the workbook. You'll notice there's little blanks. That's just to kind of keep you on your edge so you're paying attention. If you have any questions, we'll have plenty of time at the end for live questions. If you have to go or something like that, pop it in the chat feed. We'll make sure it gets answered. So I'm going to launch into some slides. Okay, and again, please, if you are not muted, please mute yourself. Cough is a great way to clear things that are stuck and stagnant. Know that very well. Our family is using that right now. So part of what we're going to be exploring, we'll just go ahead and give you an overview. So today we're going to lay that energetic foundation, this framework for helping us to see our different organ systems and how they're interconnected. And one of the things when I was talking about that idea of having a conflict and a contradiction is in Western medicine, we tend to look at the physical symptoms and we see them as being problems. From a Chinese medicine perspective, we look at it as being a guide, that it's trying to show us what organ systems are out of balance and guiding us there so that we can begin to support at that root level. So that was something, even before I had the framework, I just had that feeling of like, no, there's something, has a higher purpose. So that's part of what we're going to open up to today. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the digestive system in more detail and the concept of eating for healing. And on day 3, on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the impact of emotions. Day 4, spirit. Day 5, how we integrate all this and take it to the next level. Okay, this isn't one. That's all right. We can do it this way. Logical problems, that's all right. Frozen computer. Give me 1 second. This is the point where I realize next time I'm going to have a co-host. Sorry, guys. Ah, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now we're back aligned. All right, so I created this little image as a way to give you a representation of what we're going to be exploring over the next 5 days. You'll notice that there is a different chart that's much more expansive that will talk about the organ systems, and there's pairs. If I ever say just liver, kidney, or stomach, I actually am also referring to the full pair, which you'll see liver, gallbladder, stomach, spleen, and kidney, bladder. And although I have in this depiction just shown the 3, that's for just trying to distill the essence for you, but there's many more relationships, but I didn't want to overwhelm you in the next, over the next hour. So looking at, in particular, these 3 organ systems, the liver, the stomach, and the kidney, and how their energetic relationship is at the foundation of supporting our whole immune system. And how our emotions and how our spirit are actually part of that process. That's what we're going to be diving into. So, when we think about the strength of our immune system, sometimes we just jump into this, well, it's like I don't get colds, I don't get infections, so my foundation of my immunity must be nice and strong. The truth is the foundation of our immune health is actually our whole body energetic foundation. So yeah, in terms of, even when I'm sorry, I'm looking at my own slide. So this idea of what if we do get sick? So we had the gentleman coughing before, and I have a situation in my house where 2 of my children developed a viral bronchitis at some point and they've been coughing. I know that when I look through the bigger picture lens, that there's something that they're energetically clearing. And it's no accident, always looking at connections and alignments, whether we're looking at the organ system that's guiding, but also time. So for my daughter, who is been very actively recovering, she developed it right around her birthday. And my son, who I mentioned, he's about to turn 14. So when we have these big energetic alignments, like when we are born, when we chose to come to the planet, this is an opportunity for the body to really step it up and clear out things that have become stuck and stagnant. So sometimes we'll take on a virus or a bacteria to actually help us like dig in there and clear stuff out. Because the idea of Chinese medicine, like with the cough, instead of suppressing the cough, we want to do everything we can to release it so it can clear out and we don't need to cough to try to move things along. So this is just a general guide for you to reflect on. So thinking, have you been aware in terms of your digestive system? Do you have bloating? Do you have constipation? Do you have diarrhea? Do you notice food sensitivities, belching, or any symptom that has been showing up recurrently related to the digestive system? Emotional imbalances, it's normal. When we talk about emotions, I'm going to really focus on the fact you got to feel them all, got to be in the flow with them all. The key is to not be stuck in them. So if you find yourself being stuck recurrently in anxiety, maybe even to the level of intense panic, if you find that, it isn't just feeling sad, it's depression, like the energy is just not moving. Excessive anger, stress, worry, and overthinking, which we're going to talk about a lot when we talk about the digestive system. and if you're experiencing any chronic conditions. So when something is showing up in the body, it begins at the level of energy. And I'm going to show you a picture of the meridian system in a moment. But what you can think of, it's like a traffic jam in those energy lines, and it kind of comes and goes. But when there's been a stuck pattern over time, there can be different visible level things that show up. So that's when we get a diagnosis from a Western perspective. So, or whether it's pain that gets stuck and isn't going away, or keeps coming back in a certain location, like shoulder, knee, hip, back, headaches, recurrent headaches. Again, you know, certain locations have different meanings. Fatigue that just isn't going away, insomnia, high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll freeze up on me again. Okay. So I have to be patient with my system. So I think you guys actually have in your workbook, hopefully you have your workbook with you, because if my slides are going to be non-committal, then I can just use that as a guide. Because basically what you have in your workbook is a copy of the slides. So the foundation of our immune system, this idea that everything is energy. I can keep this out of, I don't even know if I can get out of the slideshow right now. There it is. Right, I'm just going to keep moving forward. So everything is energy. We are energy beings. So the strength of our energy foundation depends upon how much energy we have and how that energy is flowing in our meridian system. And I know you don't have a picture of what the meridian system that I was referring to looks like, but you can look at my lovely model here and you can see, wow, all these energy highways, and all these energy highways that connect above and below connect deep to every single organ system, to every single tissue, and connect to that other chart that you have in there that shows all the organ systems and how they're interconnected. So when energy is moving and flowing in those highways, you may feel things from time to time, but they don't get stuck and the body can naturally heal itself. So at the highest level, everything in this system, so when you look at that chart that has the 5 elements, you'll see these lines. So the lines around the outside, these are parent-child relationships and connections that we'll talk about a little bit more later. And on the inside, there are these dotted lines. And in the past, and in another text, you will see that those relationships are called control. And one of the beautiful evolutions that I've gotten to experience with my teacher is he said that was a misinterpretation of the ancient texts, and that those relationships are actually about very high level connection and cooperation. And then in fact, in nature, nothing is about control. Everything is about high level cooperation. So even when we think about what we experienced in the past year, the presence of COVID was here because there's a high level, bigger picture processing that we're all going through at every level. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning, the contradictions and the conflicts. That's because what we're experiencing it's so deep, it's so personal for each of us in a different, unique way, very much at the emotional and spiritual level. Let's see. No, it's not gonna. We'll just keep moving along. Okay. So the organ systems that I'm going to focus on today are what are called the vital triangle of metabolism function. So these 3 systems together will give us a picture to help us understand the foundation of our energy, the foundation of true immune health. So the liver gallbladder, this organ system, this is the organ system, this pair is responsible for all flexibility. How flexible can you be when the whole computer system doesn't want to move and you get stuck in the screen? You got to go with the flow, right? This is life. This kind of thing happens all the time. So it's about flexibility in the mind and flexibility in the body as well, and how everything is flowing. So pretty much anytime you have something that gets stuck, you know that the liver gallbladder has become out of balance. Whether you can see down at the bottom, whether it's pain or even blood pressure, because the energy is stuck going up instead of staying in a nice flowy place. high cholesterol, hormonal imbalances. So emotionally, the liver is very important for us because it is helping us to balance our emotions, and it helps us to process stress, frustration. And as I was just saying, it helps us with the adaptation to changes and how we respond when we have different experiences, whether it's a frozen computer or something stressful that happens in life, you know, in relationship to work, or everybody going into lockdown, etc. These are opportunities that really test the strength of our liver and gallbladder to tap into our ability to use our creativity and tap into flow. And I do believe, I talk about that emotions. So next, I'm just going to do an overview of the stomach spleen, and then we're going to go back after I talk about these, and we're going to go to that chart and look at those relationships, because that's very, very important for understanding how these interconnections work. So the stomach spleen, which we are going to dive really deep into tomorrow when we talk more about the digestive system health, we depend on our stomach spleen to help us receive, process, digest, and transform everything. So this includes the food we take in, but it also includes information, like what you're receiving in this right now moment. It includes energy from the environment, and includes any viruses and bacteria that might be in your environment. So the digestive system has to receive, process, digest, and transform that. In addition, the digestive system is helping you to process. We had a lot of talk in the Wellness Lies Within page about process, right? And being at peace and patient in your process. So this digestive system is helping us with that process. And each of us have a different state of processing we're in before we can move on beyond, okay, I'm working on this and that's okay. I'm working on this and that's okay, before we can take it to the next level, which is this concept of transformation, where I've received something, I've broken it down in a certain way, and now I'm taking it to the next level. So yes, and the worry and overthinking. So the stomach is the organ system that when we get stuck with digestive system issues, things can feel like this. We can get stuck in worry and overthinking. When we're stuck in worry and overthinking, it can lead to more digestive system issues. So the next organ system I want to cover is the kidney bladder. So I was talking about that when I was leading the marching at the beginning, right? I mean, such a powerful practice, just connecting your feet to the earth. And part of the reason that firm connection is because it sends a vibration into the beginning of our kidney meridian. Our kidney is our whole life force energy. So that is the reservoir that you received from your mother and father that was nurtured during the time you were in utero. So that is what you get. And how, the quality and quantity is what it is. But in terms of how that plays it out over the course of life, it depends upon all those organ interrelationships. So we peak at puberty. So for women, around 14. For men, it's around 16. And then we begin a stepwise decline. Now, how quick that decline happens in the kidney chi, again, depends on those interrelationships. So it could be that if you keep things in a good state of balance, it's a gentle slope. But if things have been out of balance, in particular, when we get to the chart, you'll see that relationship. The liver is the child of the kidney. So if our liver has been stuck and overwhelmed in stress, if you're having a lot of pain, etc., then it's going to be like having a tantruming child, and it drains the parent. So it could be like this, or it could be a slippery slope. Let's see if we've got back in a line yet. Nope. Oh, here we are. Okay. So when we think of cycles, women cycle in 7s and men cycle in 8s. So when we hit that magical point as women of 49, that's the age that most of the time we expect to be seeing menopausal symptoms. That has to do with the energetic, where the kidney energy lies. Now, all the constellation of symptoms that we have come to accept as being just part of aging and expected menopausal things are actually a sign that something is out of balance. It's trying to guide you to support. So in Chinese medicine, they don't have a word for menopause. They call it a second spring. So when the energy has been kept in a balance and you're not on that slippery slope, then it's not like you're going to continue to menstruate for the rest of your life. It's just that the energy that was used for the possibility of creating new life is now freed up. And then it can be used for this second spring, for creating who knows what, all that possibility. And you don't have to be stuck with all those physical symptoms, which are actually a sign that something's out of balance with the kidneys, such as osteopenia, osteoporosis, even increased risk of heart disease. When you look at the relationships in the chart, there's a sensitive connection between our heart and our kidney. So all of those signs. In general, we talked about the emotions, right? The emotion for kidney, anxiety and panic is a sign that the kidney energy is feeling out of balance. One way of thinking about this, like if your energy tank is super full, you know, like back when you were a teenager, pretty much fearless, right? But if your energy starts to feel like it's scarce, energy can't be created or destroyed. That's one of the beautiful things of looking through that framework, but it sure can get stuck in different places. So we can feel like it's low. If it starts to feel like it's low, you may feel like, oh, I don't know if I have enough to be able to take that on. And that could be something in life where you start to become phobic of something or begin to have more panic and anxiety symptoms. Or it could be something even on the physical level where you start to have a sensitivity. You start to have an allergy, a food allergy, an environmental allergy that shows up because that energy feels like, I don't know if I can protect myself. I don't feel comfortable around that anymore. Because of the location of where our bladder energy line lies, it can help you to see like anything related to the low back, anything down the back of the leg, the knee, anything in the foot, like I was talking about, that the kidney begins right there. So, and when we talk about plantar fasciitis or even just feeling a little achy in your feet, those are your kidneys that are talking to you and telling you to pay attention. Okay. So before I do this, I don't know if I can go back. I can, yay, it's letting me communicate. I want to look at this chart a little bit more with you guys, just to kind of lay out the relationships. I know this is a lot of information. I teach a whole 6-week class around this, and I'm here to tell you that every time I talk about it and explore this, it's infinite what you can learn and connect into. So I want to focus on those 3 organs you can see in green, the liver, gallbladder, in yellow, the stomach, spleen, and in black, the kidney, bladder. So they form this beautiful triangle. And in that, you see you've got one connection, that parent-child connection that's so sensitive that I was talking about with the liver, gallbladder. Keeping that organ system in a good state of balance is one of the best ways to conserve our energy foundation. And then you see the dotted lines in between the stomach, spleen, and the liver, gallbladder, and the kidney, bladder. And those are those high-level cooperative relationships. So that earth energy, that digestive system energy, we're going to talk again more about this tomorrow, about how sensitive it is, especially to those emotional energies that the liver might be raging, and it's pushing it into the stomach to process. And then it's coming up in all different sorts of ways. And one of the ways that it can show up for us is the liver creating intensity in the stomach, and you can get heartburn, you can get all kinds of, irritable bowel syndrome, because it's that liver emotional intensity that's trying to be released in some way, whether it's coming up this way or out that way, it's trying to escape. Okay. So every day during this 5-day event, we're going to have a challenge. And the challenge is meant to guide you to connect with this information a little deeper. And there's going to be a prize, and you've got to put yourself out there to get the prize. So these will happen on the Wellness Lives Within page. So the concept that we're opening up to today is the idea that these physical symptoms, they're not bad. They're here to guide us. And what we are learning through looking at, I know there's more, but through this triangle, I'm sure you can identify a little piece of what you're experiencing in this right now moment that's related to these 3 organs. which of these organs is really speaking to you right now? Whatever one is speaking the loudest is the one that needs attention. And because everything is interconnected, everybody benefits when you start supporting that organ and listening to it. So reflect on what we tapped into today with these 3 organs. And on the Wellness Lies Within page, you'll find the post. I think this image will be with it. And write down in the comments which organ system. And if you want to get creative, I would love to see some creativity, whether you bring some element of the organ out or however you want to express what you're experiencing in the comments. And then tomorrow there'll be a 5-element themed gift that you guys will receive. So also, I know we haven't gotten to questions yet. I'm happy to answer questions live, but also I know this is intense, presenting all of this information, and you may be like, oh my gosh, all 3 of these organs are out of balance. What does that mean? It's not a problem. It's just guidance. It's just information. And sometimes it helps if you talk one-on-one to get kind of support for seeing this from that other perspective, and it can help to take it to a deeper level. So for a short time, I'm going to be offering the opportunity to have a free consultation where we look at this map together to look at which of these organ systems are really speaking and give you some really awesome tools to begin right away to begin supporting and leveling up their function. The link to be able to book this is at the end of your workbook, and hopefully somebody dropped it in the chat if that's possible. I can't see it. Okay, good. Now I can get out. Yay. All right, everybody. And any questions at all today? I'll unmute you guys. Let's see, actually you should, yeah, anyone who has a question, unmute yourself. Quiet.
Just so everyone knows, all the links are in the chat right now. If you need to find the Facebook links or the guides, they're all in there.
Thank you, Lindsay.
So Melissa, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, that was wonderful.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. So I have a question about a symptom and how you can work with that symptom to see what message your body is trying to talk to you about. For example, a stuck shoulder. Let's say a stuck shoulder. So I know usually used to be before I started studying Chinese medicine, I would go right to the internet to WebMD or something like that. And it's like, okay, stuck shoulder. And then it would be all these things that it could possibly be, or you could possibly do for it. Okay, right. So I'm not doing that anymore. It's like, I want to look, like you said, spinning around on the inside here. The answer is in there. So how do you access that answer? How do you start that conversation with your body?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So, first of all, you can look at when the symptom showed up. That can be helpful to kind of look at the history of like, okay, when did this symptom first show up for me? What was going on in my experience when that symptom showed up? Whether that was something emotionally related, whether that was something physically that you were experiencing that happens, like, oh, maybe I hadn't made that connection yet, that there was something else that was happening at the time when my shoulder became stuck. It's also helpful to look at, were there any other physical things that happened to become stuck when the shoulder became stuck? Because that can become a guide that helps you to see which, nothing is ever in isolation. When we looked at that chart, you can see all those interrelationship. There's one organ that will be speaking the loudest, but it's always about those relationship connections. So the different things that show up at the same time are helping you to see how they're interconnected. The other piece that that comes with the gift of me immersing myself in this for 14 years, whatever it's been, 12 years officially, 14 years opening my mind, 12 years officially in this angle and perspective, and working with Grandmaster Lou. So different body parts, location, right? So you see with the meridian system, when we have a specific organ or a specific part of our body that is experiencing pain, you can look at that map as being a guide. Now I know for some of us, it's like, I'm not an acupuncturist. Well, I mean, there are some charts that are fairly simple. Like you can look at the shoulder and you can look at the energy line. And then you could look at, this is getting a little complicated for those of you who haven't done the full perspective of diving into the organ systems. But once you have, because I know you're going to be eager to learn more, you can be like, okay, I know that the large intestine meridian runs through there. And I know that the small intestine meridian is in the back. And let me look at the framework of the different by location and by the organ system and look at what that organ's all about. So for the shoulder, by location, when it's in the front and on the side, it's the large intestine. But when it's the back of the shoulder, it's the small intestine. So there's different reasons why those could get stuck. And that becomes that kind of investigative, okay, I've got the location. Now I can go to looking at the organ and I can go, oh, large intestine and lung. Ooh, what was going on? Ooh, and then we open up. Like right now, we've just really talked about symptoms and organ, and we haven't even scratched the surface of the emotions and the spirit, which we're going to start diving into tomorrow. Then you get the perspective of like, wow, I was going through a really intense time and there was a lot of control, right? With the shoulder. It's like, I'm trying to hold on and it's like everything around me is spinning out. So that becomes, that's where, it gets into that personalized guidance that can happen when I speak with you. It can help you to just kind of mirror that back to you. But the beauty of what we're opening into is the more you practice that with yourself, the more you'll be able to take that exploration and journey within. So again, to review, it's like you can know the location, connect into the organ system, and then look at the different things functionally that organ does, and then look at the emotions, look at the spirit, so you can start to dive into that big picture. Does that help?
Thank
or did I
you.
really just overwhelm?
No, that was great. It's like you can be a detective.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of almost fun.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, that really is why, one of the reasons why I love this so much. I have a chart over here that actually I think you might have it in your workbooks. The choice is yours. How will you play the game? So I started to realize, like, one of the things that frustrated me about the traditional approach is like everything becomes like we're distrusting, and it's really scary.
Yeah, scary,
It's
right?
really
right.
scary. But what if it was the opposite of that? What if we could be in a state of awe and wonder about, even my daughter, this cough that she developed around her birthday, which I totally like, she's been breaking through these like emotionally really, she just turned 10. So just really coming into herself. She's a metal, which is connected to the lung, spirit. And the cough came up and it was just sticking around. And it's like, I could get so stuck. I think I talked about this in wellness lesson at the end. I could get so in here and all these different love, and it's still there. And I sent her to 2-week sleepaway camp and blah, 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 blah. But every time I would start to spin out, spinning back in and holding it in this place of awe and wonder, and holding like, okay, if there is something else that needs to show up, and I didn't put this in Wellness Lies Within, I did have something else show up that is super curious, and I'm gonna bring it up now. So I've been supporting her with Chinese medicine. I have been supporting her through a more traditional route. And then, I've just been feeling like maybe there's a little something else that could just help, because what was happening was she's recovered from the acute phase of the bronchitis and she doesn't have wheezing. So you can't give her an inhaler to help her with it. But she's just repeatedly coughing to the point where it just like, she's inflaming it by the coughing. So I was able to connect with my holistic pediatrician, and she, part of what she does is homeopathy, and she recommended ipecacuanha. which, you know, when I look at it now, so that is like, it's basically ipecac, like, which is to induce vomiting. And this is like the opposite. It's used for, and then it's a cough. And it like, you know, she didn't say much to me. She just intuited that this is what my daughter needed. It's amazing. It's amazing that like, when you look at the 5-element chart, you'll see that the stomach is the mother of the lung. And I had been feeling like there is something that's trying to be expressed that isn't necessarily like the cough is just a reflection of something else she's trying to get out. And that's connected to her digestive system energy. So part of my point of sharing that is, you know, whether it's something where you tune into the right person outside you that can give you what you need as support, or you tune in and you're able to make the alignment and the connection. That's what this is all about. Is first you need to inform this. We need to, this needs a roadmap. This needs guidance, you know, on how to connect into all of that. And then as you start to build that connection, build the relationships, build the energy, you start to be able, it's like, it's fun. You're doing this dance of playing the detective and being your own healer. Any other questions? Thank you for that. Don't be shy. You got me right now. If anybody feels brave enough to bring up something they're, you know, they have a question about, we could work through this right now.
There's one comment in the chat here from Claudia Knoll. She said that definitely my kidney is speaking the loudest as I have low back pain and pain in the hips and legs.
Good. So that's going to be a good start for you to start to tune in to the ways that you can support the kidney. So yeah, the just knowing location, the bladder energy line, that yang aspect of the kidney, this all down the back of the legs. Now the hip, when it's more on, if it's in the back of the buttock, it's going to be related to the bladder. But when we get into the hip, it can be kind of a mix between the bladder and the gallbladder. So that relationship, very common though. There's a lot of overlap between those two huge, beautiful energy lines. Our gallbladder runs all the way down the body, and the bladder does as well. Susie, did you have a question?
Yes, and this may be redundant, but and I'm not much for mainstream medicine, but they tell me I'm bone on bone with my knees.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kidney.
Yeah.
But if I went to a mainstream doc and said it's my kidney meridian, they'd probably laugh at me. Is bone on bone simply bone on bone arthritis? I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know how to ask the question further.
Yeah,
Could it just simply be plain old bone on bone and that's it?
So one of the things that even when I was in med school, and this is still the case, I know they've done really rigorous studies where they do imaging on people that are experiencing pain, low back pain, knee pain. And the state of what they see on the X-ray and the MRI does not reflect the patient's experience of pain. So that goes to tell you, what is it? What's that in between? How do we make sense of that? If that what's physically happening, whether it's bone on bone or it's like facet joints in the back that are like going this way and that way. Pain is something that is so subjective in terms of the experience. So there's the emotional and there's the beliefs about pain, but then there's also the energetics. So those energy lines that are running through. So because it is yes, you're not going to be able to help your doctor understand the kidney energy line, and that's okay. You can take that in for yourself. But as you strengthen that energy line, the flow and the kidney energy, the flow in the liver that is responsible for the tendons, you will experience less pain. Even if the joints remain bone on bone, you're able to experience less pain because the energy is able to flow. There was in several of the things that we put out there for this, we mentioned my lovely patient, Nancy. She was my very first patient when I opened my practice, I think before I even had a space in 2013. And I had forgotten that that was what the doctors had told her. So her testimony is on my website as well, but like I had totally forgotten that when she came to me, she was told that she was going to require double knee replacements, and that was it, because she was bone on bone, forget about it. I don't remember at what point she stopped talking about knee pain, but at some point she did. And I'm like, oh my God, she just turned 72. It's amazing. So yeah, it definitely is related to the energetics. I mean, it's tough when it gets to that point and you're in a lot of pain. And that's where other modalities to help support, which I know you're familiar with, you know, energetically supporting the foundation and helping that flow, whether that's through using acupuncture or herbs or energy exercises like Qigong, where the intention is to open the flow through those meridian lines, because you need to be, you know, that energy to be able to support the kidney is all around you. Even if on the inside things are at the lower end, you just need to be taking it in. And the other thing about the kidney, which we will talk about a little bit more tomorrow, the kidney season, every organ has a season, you can see in that chart, is winter. So winter is a time for conservation. So another way that you can nurture and support your kidney energy, we want to bring in, yes, of course, from any way possible, but we also want to be really honest with ourselves about any way that we can conserve that energy, anything that might be draining our energy, so that we can use it for healing. Is that helpful? Thank you. I can see any of it.
Melissa,
Yes.
I notice you don't have anything, or I haven't seen anything specifically on diet or anything. We're talking mostly energy and exercise and, you know, that part of our systems.
Mm-hmm.
Will we talk anything about diet or any of that?
Oh, just wait for it. You're just like tuning into the preview. That's what tomorrow's about.
Ooh,
Yeah, I can't wait.
digestion sounds.
Yes, digestion and this whole idea of eating for healing. That's what we'll be diving into tomorrow.
Oh, yay.
Yes.
Melissa?
Hi, Nazreen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Melissa, if the immune count is low, like on paper, like it has become, does that mean everything is energetically off balance, or like all the systems, or is it from like could it be from over worrying or overthinking that your immune count can drop, or?
Right. Yeah. So when we look at like the visible level of the different, you know, tests that we do from a Western medicine perspective, like when we look at red blood cells and we look at white blood cells and we look at platelets and we look at vitamin D, we can see it through this lens as well. And so when you talk about, basically what you're talking about is going to be in relationship to those three organs. So if you've gotten to the point where like the platelet count gets out of balance, or there's an autoimmune thing happening with the platelets, or the white blood cell counts are either too high or too low, it's going to be technically, you know, even from a Western perspective, we know the spleen is very responsible for some of those immune cells, but it's always about in connection and relationship. In order to have a healthy stomach and spleen, that has to be in relationship to the liver, gallbladder, and the kidney bladder. So yes, that's a sign. And again, don't have to, it's a sign, you know, even when if it's gotten to the visible level where you see, you know, it's not just energetic shifts and it's gotten to that point, it's okay. It's just like, are you listening now? Right? It's just getting louder. But that doesn't mean that approaching from this deep root level would be less effective. It would be very effective, because that's going to help to get to, you know, I mean, the root cause. Like you said, I think you already said it. I mean, a lot of times we say what we know in our question, right? So if the worry and the overthinking isn't allowing you to transform, then things are getting stuck there.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Yes, yes, we'll be talking a lot more about stomach spleen tomorrow. All right. Okay, we have a few more minutes. Any other questions before we digest this first piece? All right. Well, thank you, and thank you for your patience with my computer freezing, and I look forward to sharing with everyone tomorrow. And yeah, go ahead and mute yourself. And say bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Melissa.
See you tomorrow, guys.
Nice.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.